Here at the National Farm Machinery Show, I'm visiting with FMC, and I've got with me Matt Wiggins. And first of all, Matt, tell me what you do for the company.
Yeah, Chuck, I'm a tech service manager. I cover Tennessee and Kentucky and North Alabama.
Well, one of the issues that's really important right now that we want to talk about, and certainly FMC is, it's very important to FMC and their customers, is this thing called resistant weeds. Tell me about the problem and how that's grown to where it is today.
Sure. So, I mean, it is a long, drawn-out story, and just to kind of rewind and look at herbicide resistance over time. Really, what happened was we started adopting technologies, and as we started adopting glyphosate-tolerant soybeans and corn and cotton, our reliance on that one mode of action increased, and we really stopped relying on some of our residual herbicides. And over time, what that has led to now is glyphosate-resistant weeds. A lot of times we think about palmer pigweed or water hemp, those being the two primary weeds, but now there's a whole plethora of weeds that are resistant to herbicides, not only to glyphosate, but to other classes of action. So a lot of that's occurred over time due to either selection pressure or reduced herbicide rates and things of that nature.
Well, and certainly that was a good product. It's done wonderful things, but I know I've heard it said, if this much works, maybe a little extra will work even better. But those are the kinds of things that have, over time, just made this resistance come about.
That's right. And I mean, glyphosate in general it's a once-in-a-lifetime type product.
Sure.
They did the thing that needed to be done with that product, and it was very successful, and it still has a lot of utility today. But we've got to continue to look at incorporating multiple modes of action and residual herbicides into these programs to help steward the products that we do have today commercially available that are still controlling our problematic weed species.
So what kinds of things can growers do to help mitigate that and maybe reduce at some point this being such a problem?
Yeah, so we're really going to have to adopt a diversified weed control program. Some of that's going to be herbicides, and we're going to talk a little bit about what that looks like from FMC later, but it's going to include herbicides. It's going to be including things like crop rotation and cultural control, probably looking at cover crops more and more as we move into the future, and just making sure that we're really not over-relying on one single mode of action, whether that's chemical control or mechanical control or cultural control. It's going to take a little bit of everything to help control these weeds and help prevent resistance spreading to these other modes of action.
So when it comes to, like, say, alternative products that can be used, like herbicides, how are some of the others or different ones or maybe even newer ones working to still achieve the result of killing the weeds, but yet maybe mitigating the resistance problem?
Right, so I think a perfect example of that would be Authority Supreme. That's a new product we have from FMC this year. Had a lot of success with it, and really what we're driving home, Chuck, is that this is two modes of action in this premix and this herbicide, but they're two modes of action with activity on our key weeds. A lot of times we think about using ALS inhibitors still, or some of the dinitroanilines, but the reality is a lot of our key weeds have developed resistance to that, and that's still in a lot of these premix herbicides. And for the guy that really has problematic acres, like with palmer or water hemp, you have to use multiple modes of action on your key target weed species. And that's really what we're pushing to drive home. And using those pre-emergence helps out a lot more in managing that population instead of waiting to try to clean up a mess later in the field after we've gone through a couple of rounds of selection pressure and trying to attack it at a post-only type application.
Well, I know you're probably a really good futurist, so what do you see as like the future for weed control?
Well, so unfortunately right now, we just heard this past week that the Group 15 herbicides, so products like S-metolachlor and acetochlor, there was a population in Illinois confirmed resistant to them, and that's new. We have seen some Group 15 herbicide resistance in mainly grass species, but now that these broadleaf weeds, palmer pigweed and water hemp, possibly can see resistance develop to Group 15s, what we're going to see is we're going to have to, really, our herbicide program's not going to change because there's nothing new. But what it's going to take is going to take innovation and pipeline products to come out to provide our industry with new modes of action, new herbicides, things that these populations have never seen before to help reset some of this. And we're excited to say FMC's got a very, very robust pipeline, and we're excited about what it's going to have this future.
I wanted to mention that before we close because you certainly have grown the portfolio through some of the changes we've had with companies in the industry, and maybe a comment about the research and development and at the level at what FMC is doing it, being a company that is just in the chemical side, and I don't think you sell seeds, do you?
No, that's all right. That's good. We always like to have those conversations with our growers, and Chuck, we want to be agronomic, and we want to make sure our growers are picking the right hybrid or variety for that acre. But the reality is that whatever your favorite seed is our favorite seed. We want to be able to open up our portfolio and reward our growers regardless of what trait technology they use. And we do that through the FMC Freedom Pass. The other great thing about that with our R&D organization that we just acquired when we purchased that portion of DuPont is now that all of our dollars that are going back to R&D development are strictly going back to develop new herbicides and fungicides and insecticides. And that's key, that's important. I mean, a lot of these other big companies, we're having to feed the R&D pipeline for chemistry and also for traits. And we need all of that. But at the same time, it's exciting to be working for FMC and have such a robust pipeline moving forward, and we're only devoted to chemicals, to ag chemical products.
Well, thank you very much. That's Matt Wiggins with FMC. We're here at the National Farm Machinery Show. Things are picking up. You might see in the background here. We love it. It's going to be a great week. I'm Chuck Zimmerman reporting.